En este video verás cómo el activista conservador Andrew Wilson rompe el argumento subjetivo de este hombre de cabello morado y pestañas rizadas, quien afirma que para saber si una persona exageradamente delicada como él finge o no lo que siente, hay que guiarse por las vibras. Sí, así como lo escuchaste. Mira el video y dime si tus vibras dicen que es hombre, aunque se ponga faldita.
Sex, you can't change.
Let me ask you.
That's my claim about sex this entire time.
Well, let's see if that's true. Let's see if that's true or not. Let's assume for a second that somebody goes down the exact same pathway that you did. I'm just going to ask one slight personal question. You don't have to answer it, of course, but just for the demonstration purposes, have you taken HRT?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, assuming that somebody has the exact same story that you do, however, does not color their hair purple and does not grow it out, right? Or let's just say that they do, in fact, do this, okay? But they say that they're not a woman. Would you classify them as one?
As a woman? Are we talking about woman or are we talking about female?
Would you classify them as a woman?
So, woman is a social category. I think we would have to examine their lived social experience to classify them as a woman.
So one more time, I'm going to ask this, right? Because it's very important. What is the definition of a woman in your purview?
Would you like a definition?
I would like you to give me your definition, or what
sure,
you
I can certainly give you a definition of woman, but I want to be clear that I don't believe that there is like one end-all be-all definition for any term, let alone woman. But because I recognize woman more so under a sociological framework, I would say that a woman is an individual who's assigned feminine roles and expectations by their society based on perceived femininity, femaleness, and/or stated identity.
What? So it's just a perception? There's nothing foundational about it?
No, I said it's based on a lived social experience.
Well, it sounds like it's an empty label because you're not telling me what it actually is. What is
I told you it's based on a lived social experience.
Yeah,
of
that
having
doesn't mean anything.
Feminine roles and expectations assigned to you by society.
What is the actual definition according to Naomi? If I
just provided it to you.
If I declared that I was a woman, would I be one?
I don't think so.
What?
That is not your sincere identity.
But assuming that...
Also, that's not your lived social experience.
Assuming that I took it as my lived identity, do you need to have the social experience of being a woman in order to be one?
Are you asking descriptively or prescriptively?
I'm asking you.
Well, I think that descriptively, if we're recognizing woman as a lived social experience, then that would encompass somebody who lives that social role. But if we're talking about how I think that people should be prescriptively treated, then I would want to treat people based off of their sincere identity.
I'm asking
that is
you
completely an answer to your question.
That they're a woman. If a man claims that they're a woman, a biological male claims that they're a woman, what makes them not one?
What do you mean?
I don't know how else I can possibly frame that better, but I'll try. If a person says, Naomi, I have all the same characteristics that you do, but I'm not a woman, are they a woman?
If we're talking descriptively, if their lived social experience is that of a woman, descriptively, they would be a woman.
So would you misgender them?
No, because I interact with people based off of my prescriptive beliefs.
Okay, so anybody who says they're a woman, you're going to consider them to be one. If it's
a sincere identity, then prescriptively, yeah.
Well, how would you know if it's sincere or not? You just have to take them at their word.
I think that you can typically do this based off of a vibe check. For example, when Steven Crowder dressed up as a woman and said that he was a woman, I didn't believe him. But I think that a trans woman who sincerely believes that, you know, they are a woman, they want to be a woman, it's pretty easy to tell based on the vibe check.
You just told me that based on the vibe, if you feel like they aren't, it's okay to misgender them.
If someone like Steven Crowder is pretending to be a trans woman, I think it's okay to misgender him.
Okay, but what if you don't know? What if they're claiming that they are? You don't know for sure, but the vibe you get is that they're not. Is it okay to misgender them?
I mean, I default to being pretty lenient with people, but I think that based on the vibe check, it's pretty easy to tell when someone is being, you know, very, very dishonest.
Well, how do you know? They could be lying. Like, for instance, if you tell me, Naomi, if you said to me, Andrew, I'm a woman, and I say you're lying to me, the vibe that I get is that you're not. Why am I wrong? Because
why are you wrong?
It's
because my lived social experience is that of a woman.
Experience, but you could be lying, right?
Sure, people can lie about their lived social experience.
So then why ought I say something that I think is not true?
I mean, you can say whatever you want to believe. I'm simply arguing for what I believe and what I believe creates the most utility in these situations.
But Naomi, I know what is. I know that in the realm of what is, I can do whatever I want. I'm asking you, why ought I do this thing?
Why ought you do
Why
what?
ought I go ahead and do this thing where you claim that I need to go out of my way to call somebody based on the vibe, whatever I want, even if what if the vibe I'm getting is that they're
Wait,
lying?
I never said that you have to do this. I'm explaining why I do this.
Well, regardless, it's still an ought. Don't you think people ought not misgender other people?
Yes, I think that people ought to treat people based off of the gender role that they would like to live in.
What if your vibe is that they're lying? Is it okay to misgender them?
If it's somebody that it seems that they are very much being dishonest, yeah.
Well, I don't know what that means, though. That's all subjective.
You don't know what vibe checks are? I think
Well,
I think there's
any
lots of
human
things that we
being-
vibe check about.
Well, wait a second. If any human being then, based on the criteria of like conservative Christian, thinks that a transgendered woman is lying about being a woman, they should then misgender them because their vibe is that they're lying, Naomi.
Es preocupante cómo se ha normalizado aceptar afirmaciones sin fundamento en nombre de la inclusión. El hombre activista llamado Naomi declaró que podemos saber si los hombres exageradamente delicados son auténticos en lo que dicen sentir basándose únicamente en las vibras. Esta clase de argumentos, lejos de ser racionales, revelan el vacío intelectual detrás de ciertas posturas ideológicas. Si una persona afirma que su identidad depende de vibras o sensaciones subjetivas en lugar de hechos biológicos, ¿dónde queda el límite de lo verificable? La ciencia no opera por vibras, sino por evidencias. Sin embargo, esta ideología exige que la sociedad acepte como verdad incuestionable lo que, en realidad, es pura percepción personal. Peor aún, quien dude de ello es tachado de intolerante, aunque su pregunta sea perfectamente razonable. No se trata de faltar el respeto a nadie, sino de rechazar que los sentimientos individuales, por muy intensos que sean, reemplacen la realidad objetiva. Si las vibras fueran suficiente prueba, cualquier afirmación, por absurda que fuera, tendría que ser aceptada sin cuestionamientos. ¿Realmente queremos construir una sociedad sobre bases tan frágiles? La verdad no depende de lo que sentimos, sino de lo que podemos demostrar. Y hasta ahora, la biología sigue siendo bastante clara al respecto. ¿Y tú qué opinas? Déjamelo saber en los comentarios. Aquí termina este video. Si te gustó, dale like, comenta y compártelo. Además, si disfrutas de este tipo de contenido, suscríbete a mi canal. Tengo más videos similares que podrían encantarte. Muchas gracias y hasta luego.